Senkos. I'm going to show you how I rig up these two worms to help you catch fish like this one that I caught the other day. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first of all, these are probably your most versatile baits that you can use when it comes to bass fishing. Why? Because usually for just about any condition, you can pull out a old finesse rig and you can probably catch something, whether it's windy, whether it's not. Now, of course, there are certain times where you don't want to use these. Maybe you want to use a crankbait because there are a few rock piles beside where you are fishing, or maybe you want to use a jig to drag it across some beds. But in all honesty, man, you can never really go wrong with a good worm rig. Now, just starting off, if you are subscribed to Lucky Tackle Box, you would notice that these mustad hooks came in your box this month. So I'm going to use these hooks to show you how I rig up my Senkos. So I'm going to go ahead, open these things up, and the reason these weren't open is because I already have some, but they're open now and they're going to go in my tackle box when we're done. So as you see, just a regular hook. Notice it does not have the curvature at the top like most of the other hooks that you would use to put a Senko on, but I'm going to show you that this can still work if you use it the right way. And actually, when it comes down to the fish biting on this hook, it's actually a little bit better because instead of you having that curvature, it exposes the hook a little bit more, but I'll show you that. So first of all, we are going to start with the stick Senko. So the first rig that we're going to talk about is the good old mighty Texas rig. I like the Texas rig. I use the Texas rig a lot. Usually the type of rig that you use for your Senko can usually deal with where you are. I know a lot of the fish where I fish, they don't necessarily care for a wacky rig, but in other places they'll tear that thing up. So they kind of like the Texas rig, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Alright, so for the weightless Texas rig, we're going to first start by taking this hook, and usually the way that I measure it out is as soon as it starts to bend is where I will pull the hook through. That usually will give you a good measurement. So we're going to go to the top of this worm in the middle, just for beginner's sake. We're going to go in the middle and we're going to stop right there. Alright, once you do that, start to rotate that hook to where it comes outward. Alright, you want it to look just like that. Alright, so then what I do, I go ahead and pull it all the way through. Now right here is where a lot of people differ. With this particular hook, you want to pull it past this little indentation right here, which kind of keeps it in place. But some people will pull it all the way through and have it on the line, and some people pull it just to the loop. It really depends on the type of movement that you want out of the Senko, but just for a beginner's sake, we're just going to go ahead and pull this right there. Notice that there is a little indentation. So now what you want to do is you want to rotate this hook so that it is facing the worm itself. Now, the way that I usually measure this is I will take where the tip of the hook is, right here, and I will put my finger wherever it is on that worm. So when I go to thread this hook through this worm, I will push up on it, and then I will pull that thing through. And usually that will give me a pretty straight worm. Now, of course, that is the Texas rig. The way this works, of course, is when you pop this thing in the water, when you're slightly doing your movements, it's going to go down head first. And then every time you pop it up, it's going to wiggle at the end and go down. So this is the reason I like to use this hook, because the majority of the time, if bass are really hungry, they will attack it from the front or they will attack it from the middle. And in this case, you know, really whichever way that fish decides to swallow this bait, it should get hooked. And now, going back to what I was saying about these mustad hooks, they're really called the grip pin edge hooks. The reason I like these is because when that fish bites down, that thing is exposed. As you can see, it is exposed. So usually when that fish comes in, either this way, or this way, you have a very high chance of hooking up with that fish. So that's the Texas rig, and that's how I like to do that. So the next one that we're going to do is, of course, the Wacky Rig. Now, for the Wacky Rig, most people don't use a finesse worm unless they're doing it on a drop shot, and usually on a finesse worm, they'll just hook the tip just like this and let that thing suspend in the water. But that's for another video when we're talking about drop shots. Right now, we are just going to talk about the Wacky Worm jig. Now, there are two ways that I do this, and it's really up to you. You can do it my way, or you can do it either way that you feel, but I have found that these two ways work pretty good for me. So what I usually like to do with a stick Senko is, first of all, I want to take that Senko and I want to fold it in half to where each end meets each other. And then I want to take the furthest end point of that Senko and I want to hold it in my hand just like this. Now, this time, instead of us using those hooks that came in our lucky tackle box, I'm going to show you how to rig it up with a drop shot hook. This right here is what I usually use as a drop shot hook. Now, of course, there are other hooks that you can use. This is more like a circle hook, but I have found that I get a better hookup ratio with this. So once again, like I said, I'm going to take this Senko and I'm going to fold it in half just like this, and then I'm going to hold the top. Now, all you have to do, and I like to come from the top just to make sure that I'm putting it in correctly, you want to take that hook and put it through there halfway to where it is just like this. Now, when you hold that thing upright, that worm is sitting directly at the bottom and it's able to move just like this. So when it's going through the water, of course, it'll float down. And then once it floats down, when you drag it, it's going to work just like this. Notice that it does in fact fold itself. Now, like I said, where I'm from, I usually don't get a good hookup ratio with the Wacky Rig, which is very strange because this is probably the more versatile out of the three types of ways to hook these things. But hey, it works different ways for everybody. It's no perfect way. You find something that works for you and then you run with it. So that's the first way that I do the Wacky Rig. There actually is a second way that I do it, and that is actually using a weight. So instead of it being weightless, and I'll show you the weight that I use. All right, so this right here is a Wacky Rig weight. The way that you use this end, this is actually a weight at the bottom, as you can see. But this end at the very top, this loop, is what you want to put through your worm. So the same way that we did it before, you want to take that worm, you want to fold it in half. Once it is folded in half, the same way that you stuck that hook through, you want to stick that weight through. Just stick it through the top. And now flatten that worm out. Now notice it's inside the worm, but the hook is not exposed yet for your hook that you're going to put through. So you just want to barely push that thing through. And there's a reason that I like to do this. I don't like to completely expose the metal in the worm because, I mean, it's hard for it to happen, but it's still possible for this worm to get ripped off of the weight. So I still want to make sure that weight goes through the worm just a little bit. So I just want to see it puncture up, just like that, if you can see. Now, you want to take your drop shot hook or whatever hook that you're going to use, and you want to go right through the middle of that weight and a little bit inside of that worm. Stand that hook right up, and there you go. Notice it has the same effect as the last one. The only difference is now you have a weight on here. So you can throw this Wacky Rig for a little bit deeper water. It's fine to throw a weightless on deeper water as well, but as you notice, it will give it just a little bit more fall, which gives it a little bit more action. That's the third way. If you have any questions or anything, please leave it in the comments. If there's any other way that I could have done these rigs, maybe there's a way that you like to do it from where you are from, please by all means leave it in the comment section below. You can follow me on Instagram, and you can also message me on Instagram if you would like for me to do any other types of videos. I don't mind messaging through YouTube, but I think Instagram is a lot easier to check. So guys, once again, make sure you take somebody fishing, and also, as usual, stay hooked, my friends. Peace.